So I wanted to show you guys the damage that I've done to my orchids, how I feed and water them, and how I've actually gotten them to rebloom. So here's my flowers, my Phalaenopsis orchids that I got to rebloom. I accidentally broke the flower spike, so there's only 2 flowers on it, but I'm going to show you how I feed and water them. So the orchid I have here is the one that has a little keiki on the side, and it's also putting out a new flower spike, so I'm really excited for this one to bloom. I don't know what color it's going to be. So what I'm using to feed my orchids is my homemade orchid food, and this one, I'll put the link to the video if you haven't seen it yet. It's ground up eggshells. It's really easy to do. The other thing that I use is Epsom salt, and this is really easy. I just add it to the water, and I use my son's water balloon filler. It has a cool pump on it, so you don't need to keep squirting the water bottle. You just pump it with the handle, and it'll give you a continuous spray. So to get started with the feeding, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of the Epsom salt right into the water container. Oh my god. The next thing you want to do is just fill up the water bottle with, I use tap water. I haven't really noticed anything go wrong with my orchids using tap water. So you just put this on and shake it up really well, and you're ready to start spraying the orchids. Alright, I'm going to show you some of my orchids, and I'm going to show you some of the damage that I've accidentally done. So I'm really not great with plants. This is my one that I showed you at the beginning, and I broke it off right here. And I was hoping that it would regenerate another section of the stem that had broken off, but it hasn't produced any new spots that I've noticed. I put a lot of damage here. I think I saw that these had a lot of bugs on them when I first received them, and so I had soaked them overnight and did some damage to the leaves, as well as I let them dry out afterwards, which made some of the leaves dry out. But I'm really shocked that they're holding on, and they seem to like the routine that I've given them. I've had these for a couple months. And by the way, soaking them did get rid of the bugs. I was able to get the, I think it was mites, like spider mites, off of them. So here's another sad one that I really put through a lot of damage. I think I lost like 3 leaves. When I first got this one, I put it in the sun outside and forgot about it towards the end of summer, and I just totally burnt, like the whole middle crown was burnt off, and it actually has some green growing in there, so I'm really hopeful about it. And it started just putting out a bunch of new roots as well, so I'm really happy. And this one has some buds coming off of it, which is new this year, so I'm really happy. I got it from an older lady that I do some sewing and ironing for, and she got tired of trying to get it to rebloom, and she gave it to me, and I haven't seen what the flowers look like, so I'm excited to see what color they are. Here's another one that I've been managing to keep alive. It's also putting out new roots right here, you can see, and it's got a new leaf right on top, so they seem to really like what I've been doing. All of these had the mites, and I've soaked them all and done a little bit of damage to them, and I'm really just keeping them alive. This one has new growth also, and they all, when I did receive them, a lot of them were still in their nursery pots. They had that mass underneath as well, but I removed those all, and this one is actually putting out a new flower spike right there on the side. I'm gonna zoom in close for you to see it. So pretty cool. I've been keeping this one by the windowsill, and it's got the most sun in the south-facing window, so it's putting out some new growth, but the leaves, the older leaves, look like they're getting a little bit too much sun. They're papery, and I forget to water this one as much. Here's another one. This one I've had actually for a while, and only this year has it put out new leaves that are bigger than these first ones it was putting out after I had originally received it. They started putting out smaller leaves, but it's got a really good root system. It looks nice and healthy, so hopefully it'll start producing some flower spikes. And I can see that it's still a little bit green down there in the roots, so that means that it's got enough water on the bottom. So I'm just gonna not water this one as heavily and just probably spray a little bit on the top. So the first thing that I like to do, which I honestly don't do that often, is make sure that the leaves are clean so they can photosynthesize and bring in all that light. And I do that to all of the leaves. And I don't usually put anything on the rag. It's pretty dry. You can dip it in a little bit of water if you want, if the dust seems to really get stuck on there. But for me, I'm just using a dry one.
Get to making with jive, boy. When it hits you, yes, indeed, yes, yes, you shall. When it hits you, yes, indeed, yes, when it hits you, yes.
So you'll kind of notice that the dry roots will look white or grayish, and then when you water them, they're gonna turn green. So if they're still green when you go to water them, you don't really need to, but you know, when I spray them every day like this, then I find that, and plus I'm in a dry climate, I find that watering them every day is usually pretty good. They're not too wet still yet the next day. So when you go to water them, if they are still green, you probably won't need to water them, and just wait. You can wait until they're gray again. Once all of that is watered, then I'm going to start sprinkling the powder that we made onto the roots, just a little bit on both sides, in the front and the back. And the watering it first really helps it to stick on there, but sometimes I do water it. Sometimes I sprinkle this stuff on first and then water it. It doesn't really matter. So I do this probably every month. And I only started feeding them when I noticed that they were putting out the new growth, because you can overfeed your orchids and then they'll start, I don't know, probably dying or something. I think it does burn them. So if you start noticing like the tips are getting burned and whatever, then that's overfeeding. As far as the Epsom salt in the water, I will use up the water, and every third time that I need to refill that water, then I'll put the Epsom salt in there. I also do the same feeding routine with the rest of my houseplants. I propagated this one, Monstera deliciosa, and it's growing really good. I'll probably cut it again this summer and propagate it some more because it's got big roots on there. So let me know in the comments if you want me to record that video for you. And I thought I'd show you real quick, I also propagated this one. This is a Brazilian philodendron, and I also have a pothos, which is also propagated. And I do the same thing. I sprinkle it on there and spray it. It doesn't matter which direction it is. These pitiful things I'd like to share with you also, because not everything goes great in this house. The roots completely fell off of this one, and I'm trying to just keep it in water, and I'm gonna see if it will start putting out new roots. And this one, the whole top of the stuff rotted out, and the bottom also rotted out, so I just keep it in the same dish, and you know, the roots look good, like something might happen somewhere, but I'm just holding on to it. I feel really bad throwing them away, so I'm just gonna see what happens, but it's not always a success. And that is how I've managed to keep these babies alive. Another thing that I've learned after a little bit of research is that the colder weather will help them to initiate the flower spike. And so I had mine on the windowsill for a while during the winter, and they were exposed to that colder temperature for a long period of time, basically the whole winter. And so that's how they started growing. So that is it, guys. That is basically my routine for keeping these orchids alive, and how I've actually even managed to get them to rebloom, which is a miracle to me. If you guys like this video, please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you like the channel, and thank you so much for watching.